Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Transformational Storytellers show.
Hello, everybody.
Oh my goodness. So I am going to introduce you to this beautiful woman,
Oh,
and I am just so excited that you're here, Mary.
I'm
So
excited to be here.
yes. So, she's the founder of MO Leadership Collective. She's the mother of one amazing daughter, professional speaker, and she intertwines her experience as an executive leader, country stage performer. We got to talk about that, okay?
Okay.
And you're gonna be able to experience this, everybody. She's a sassy Southern lady. And so
Right.
yes, she combines all of that into her dynamic and value-packed talks. Her mission is to help aspiring mid-level managers become unstoppable leaders. And I'll tell you more about where to find her because all of her information is going to be in the show notes. But for now, let's welcome Mary Ottman. Hi, Mary.
Hey, how are you? Hey, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm excited for this.
I am so excited that you're here and that we get to share your story. I want to, get started right away so that you can share the story with us. One of your many, many, many stories.
Absolutely. Well, so you are so awesome at pulling out the little nuggets and the pain. Yeah. So you're really good. So Alina is amazing. So anything she wants to do, I am all in. But here's the thing. She's got this story method, and you think you're going in with, okay, I want to let people know this, and then you dig in and it's like, oh my god, I didn't even know that was there. So there I was, divorced again. It was the set. I've got two ex-husbands. That's, I mean, that sounded bad, but I've only got two. And that's not the future little girls dream of, right? And I was just sitting there one day on the couch talking to my sister-in-law, and I was telling her that. I said, this is not what I dreamed of for my future. And I said, there's a common denominator though, because the second one, I picked someone totally opposite from the first one. So I'm the common denominator, right? And I started doing the work to figure out why that was, because I don't want that to happen again. I have that daughter and I want to be a role model. So, I started doing the work and working with a therapist. I highly recommend that. And she said, what is one word to describe you? If you could sum it up in one word. And I said, unlovable.
Mm.
And she's like, why do you think that? And I said, well, here I am, dysfunctional family background, no, divorced twice, like, something's unlovable. And she said, Mary, is a baby lovable? And I said, well, yeah, a baby's lovable. She said, well, did the baby have to do anything to be lovable? And I said, no. And then suddenly it hit me, and I get chills every time I think about it. Is, well, if a baby doesn't have to do anything, why would I have to do anything? And this was huge. This explains so much about my journey and my experience, because I had a 27-year career in the Army, and there at the end, I mean, I was burnt all the way out, like death spiral to the health challenges, right? And that's the problem, because I dug in deeper with her, and I had this belief that in order to be worthy, other people had to think so. It couldn't just be by me. So, I mean, I worked and worked and worked and worked, right? And that's actually a problem for leaders. And we can talk about that later. But, you know, once you realize that, now you can do something about it, right? So many people have these things from their childhood stirring around and don't realize it's driving their bus. It's driving you. In my case, it drove me to that death spiral. So, I started to realize that negative voice in my head wasn't true. And people say that, all the time, like to ignore the voice. And it's very difficult when you start, right? And so as I started doing the work, it's like, wait a minute. Every time it says that, that is not true. That is not true. And it took a lot of time, but I eventually came to that point where I realized I don't need anybody else to tell me this. And, you know, when I first heard this, I was this independent woman. I didn't need anybody. I was going to be successful. You couldn't hold me back. Like, come on, strong, independent. And I thought, wait a minute, how can I be strong and independent and yet need other people to verify and validate my worth? That's like, what is going on? So at that point, I'm like, who am I anyway? I thought I was this and now I'm this. I can't be those at the same time and be successful, really. And so, you know, that's how, you know, the my story is the title is from who am I to I am. I am worthy. I am enough. And, you know, I am lovable. So there's that.
You are absolutely lovable. I love you so much.
I
And
love you too.
and I'm sure, I can relate to the voices. And I'm sure many people in our audience, whether it's a divorces or breakups with friends or parent estrangement, whatever it is, that we've all felt that sting of I'm not enough, I'm unlovable, or I am just so lonely. And actually, loneliness is an epidemic right now. So I'm really grateful that you shared your story with us, that you definitely went to that vulnerable place, because I know that you have so much to share in the leadership space, and that we could have talked about so many other things that happened to you in the workplace. But I really love that you went to the root of so much problems, or so many problems that happen in the workplace that are because of those insecurities that are rooted in all levels of leadership and performance. So I'm really grateful for that. And to that effect, why do you feel that it's important to share our stories, and to you specifically ask as leaders, why should or must leaders share stories? Why is this so important to do?
Well, especially with my background in the army, you know, never let them see you sweat. You never see, you know, you get bothered. And a lot of people, they end up with heart attacks and health problems. And it's important, in my opinion, to share those stories so people see you and you know, you don't want to come in crying every day. That's not what you want. But to share the stories that show I am human, I have the same experiences and I worry about things and I have weak points and we need to work together as a team. I mean, that's just real life. And if you're not exposing that, you know, and being vulnerable, then nobody relates to you. Like, you know, how can I can never be this. I'm human. I can never be this. So I think to connect with your team, they have to see that you've got that common experience with them, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And has it always been easy for you to share your story and to be vulnerable?
Oh, oh no, no. So your story method is absolutely excellent for this because I realized that I'm, you know, from a professional background and I was technical, right? And so your story method gave you that mechanism instead of just, I did this and I did this and then I did this, like telling people just the facts, because I was an engineer, right? So just the facts.
Yeah.
It gave me that mechanism to tell the story. You know, Stephen King says, if everybody just wanted information, textbooks would be bestsellers. Nobody wants just the facts. They want to see your journey, feel your journey, the emotion of your journey so they can connect with you. You know, and we all feel like we've got this individual experience. I grew up in a trailer park, and like nobody I knew back then lived in a trailer, but I don't know anybody now lives in a trailer. So I feel like when I tell that, like nobody's going to relate to me,
Hmm.
you know. And I actually slept in the bed with my grandmother in the main bedroom. And actually, I gave this talk And I thought I shared that super vulnerable about how broke we were, right? After it was over, I did a workshop and a girl came up to me and she said, I didn't sleep in the bed with my grandmother, but I slept on the floor next to my grandmother's bed. Who
Mhm.
would have thought I would have connected on that, you know? But that's what you get, these points of connection with people. And they're like, oh, we're
Yeah.
okay. I want to listen. What else have you got to say? And so that's what I want to do is help people. But your method, listen, getting vulnerable is hard. Like, oh, there's my heart. Shh, you know, there you
Absolutely.
go. It's there to trample on. Do your thing, right? So,
Thank you. Well, I've seen you use that method beautifully, sharing on the TEDx stage, at the United Nations. You're amazing, and you've had this trajectory of speaking for so many corporations, and lately you've been taking that internationally to Australia, even. So, you know,
that sounds exciting.
intercontinental speaker, which is really amazing. Um, and I really love what you said because it's like that woman who approached you feels like she's not alone in the world.
Yes, yes.
And you also feel like you're not alone in the world. It's the gift that keeps on giving. And many times people won't approach us to tell us these experiences that, maybe there's no time, maybe they're shy, maybe something gets in the way. But just to know that when you share from the heart and vulnerably, you are creating permission for people to share their stories. I always say that your vulnerability liberates others. So thank you for giving others permission to share their story by modeling that for them, Mary. And one of the things that I want to ask about is because you help leaders become purposeful. I'll let you say what you do, but all of the things that you help leaders do, um, it- it's so needed. And I want you to tell us more about why do you do this work in the world, and why do you love it with your experience in the army and as an engineer and as a speaker now, but having all this corporate experience, why do you think these three things are so important for leaders to become?
So today I help aspiring, mid-level, and new leaders become confident, purposeful, and productive. And the reason, I had a few reasons, but the main one was I want to help people because I've been that 30-year-old mom who's a new leader, and you're balancing all the things, and the imposter syndrome just goes crazy, and are these people going to listen to me? And I mean, I'm trying to do my best. How can I help people? And so, becoming confident, feeling free, and just just poised, and just feeling like your message is important and people will listen is huge for leadership. You can't be a leader and sit back in the back and not say anything, because people are looking to you, right? In the middle of the storm and the chaos, which is layoffs and changing deadlines all the time, people are looking at you to be calm and poised, and be confident in the direction you're going. So and I just love, well, I'll tell you a story. So when I announced I was going to retire, I had a young lady book an appointment on my calendar, and she came in and she's like, how'd you get this job? And asking for advice. And I said, well, when your top leadership comes through your lab, volunteer to brief them on your program. And she said, I could never do that. I'm
Mm,
like, why? And she said, I won't know the answer to all the questions they might have.
yeah.
Who's going to have all the answers, right? So I kind of coached her through it and talked her through it. But think about all the people out there that feel that way, and you've got so much to share. And if you don't know all the answers, you can bring in an expert to help you, or you can say, I'm not, I don't know at this very moment, but I will get back to you and let you know the answer. There's ways to handle that. But the fact that she had a master's degree, a technical degree. She was so smart. And it was just, it was stunning. I literally was like, what? Okay, let's work this out. You know, because you deserve to move up the ranks and get promoted. You're super smart and you got so much to give. So that's just one example of why I do what I do. I'm passionate about it. I just want people to bloom and share their expertise. Everybody's got a different set of lessons learned, and so we all have something to give, you know, to our
Yeah.
employees and peers and families and everybody.
Yeah, and when the leader shows up in such a way with those three components that make them unstoppable, they also create a ripple effect for the work culture to then be one of confidence and purpose and in high performance and productivity. So I think it's a win-win. So that when they bring you in any organization or corporation, they can see that their leaders are inspired, but also they're going to pass that on to everyone in the company and the organization. And then the organization, your word, I love it because that's one of my favorite words, bloom. And that's what we want in our corporations to not only have profit and performance and productivity, but to have that trust and that sense that we're all together toward moving toward a beautiful purpose. And I love that you do that for people individually and for organizations as a whole. And I love that story too. So I'm sure everyone is having a blast today learning from someone as beautiful and sassy as you.
Thank you, thank
And
you, thank you. Takes one to know one. Just saying.
so, and so, a little bit of a twist here. So we talked about how awesome your work is and how it's needed. So what does it look like when leaders don't get this type of preparation? Because as you said, you were able to work with this woman, this beautiful, capable leader to help her with her confidence, to help her with imposter syndrome. But what happens when leaders don't have that type of training and of preparation and support?
Well, what I've noticed is in my journey, first of all, usually when leaders go to just normal training, this is not your regular leader training when I come in, just saying, because I have sat through a ton of those and they're boring and people are checking their phones and all the things, right? But usually everybody in the room is thinking, man, I know somebody that could use this. And they're not thinking, oh, well, wait, I can use this, right? And so everybody's got something. You've got a blind spot or something. So, I just think it's huge for people to get this training. And, also on top of that, to be confident, I think you've got to start looking backwards, like those negative voices in your head. Man, when you're in a technical world, especially engineering, you got about 50 people that want to tell you what's wrong with your ideas, right? And they're picking you apart. And so you have to be confident enough to go in and know whatever you're proposing, it's a good idea. Now, it may not be the idea that gets chosen just because, there might be, political, considerations or whatever, but you've got to be confident enough to at least say it, right? You got to put it out there. Nobody can say yes or no if you don't even voice it. So, letting those, I always say, you can't get rid of the negative voices, but you can put them in the back of the car so they're not as loud, right? And you can keep driving on.
Yeah, I love that. And so would you say that when you had the thought and the belief, I am unlovable, that getting rid of that belief and reframing it was crucial to your success today?
Absolutely true. It's really horrible to hear this said out loud, but I spent 15 years That's 1.5. That's like a decade and a half working in an environment where I wasn't valued and I was told you're not technical enough. You need to get more training. You need to do this. You need to do that. And I knew I wanted to go into management. Well, these tech guys were like, that's where old useless engineers go to die. I mean, they were never going to think that was a good idea, but there I sat, listening. And I always say, would you ask the hockey coach for football advice? Like they were never going to acknowledge that was a good idea. But I, over time, became confident. Wait a minute, I want to do this. And by the way, as soon as I decided that, I knew I had to get an MBA. I wrote a letter about this long to my boss's boss's boss and told her why it would be a good idea for the Army for me to get an MBA. And do you know I got approval within 24 hours? But if you don't put it out there, there I would be, right? So you never know until you put it out there. So just, and the way to become, one way to become confident, you just have to keep taking steps, right? You have to be willing to be wrong in order to eventually be right. And just, helping people get there is what I do.
I love that. Well, we are out of time now because, this is a juicy conversation and it goes by fast. So
It does.
what is one step that our audience can take to, get closer to that confidence, to knowing who they are so that they can then bring those tools to the workplace and the work culture. And, obviously one step is to contact Mary. But I'm gonna definitely leave all that information in the show notes. But what is something that you recommend or something that you want to leave them with?
Well, I think a big tool that could help would be to get a journal. We don't even know how many negative thoughts we think in a day, right? But every time you think a negative thought, it can just be a little notepad you have with you, just kind of write it down. Then reflect, look at it. 2 steps. Look at it and say, is this really true? Nobody's going to believe me. Is that really true? Somebody's going to believe you. And then write the opposite. People are going to believe me. I can't do this. Man, people are going to laugh you out of this building if you try that. Is that really true? I don't think so. And then write the opposite. People aren't going to laugh. They're going to love it if I try this because I'm going to be an example. People are going to go, if you can do it, I can do it. I wouldn't write all that in my journal. Write it in your own words, but do that. Write the negative thought. Is it really true? And then write the opposite and you'll eventually start to believe that, right? The negative voices get lower, they get further in the back of the car, and the positive thoughts take over and build that confident, muscle that you need to build.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mary. Thank you for your time. I love you dearly. I'm so just grateful that you shared your wisdom and your vulnerable story with us today. You are amazing, and everyone connect with Mary as soon as possible.
Thank you. I can't wait to hear from you. Thank you, Alana. And I think all that I love you too. Everything you do is amazing. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Ciao, ciao.